Hello everyone, and thanks so much for tuning in. We're going to be showing 4 different repairing and upcycling projects from Anita. So I'll now give you 2 minutes to go and grab any clothes you have that have holes in or need mending. Anita and I are going to be in the comments during this workshop, so if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments box and we'll answer them as we go along. So thank you very much, and I'll hand over to you, Anita.
Hi, my name's Anita. I run a business called SEW WHAT MCR, and I'm here today to show you how you can mend, upcycle, change up your wardrobe and the things that you already have in it to make things last a little bit longer. Okay, we're going to go through some of the tools that you'll need. You don't need anything fancy. You might have some of these things already. Okay, so first up, you'll need a range of needles, just hand sewing needles. You'll need some quite thin ones, like quite small and delicate. You might need some bigger ones if you are going to be mending something chunky like a jumper or like with really thick fabric. If you struggle threading a needle, I would recommend one of these. This is a needle threader, like does what it says on the tin. I'll show you how to use that in a second. You need a range of threads. Again, you don't need anything fancy. These are all a mix, like a polyester mix, just because they're stronger than cotton ones. And just have a think, if you're mending something that's a certain colour and you want it to blend in, then match the colour thread. If you want it to stand out, then get something really bright. What else? So tailor's chalk, this will come in handy in a bit. I'm going to show you how to sew on buttons, and this is just quite handy for marking where they need to go. And some scissors. You'll definitely have these at home, you don't need fancy ones. These are just paper scissors, which are fine for cotton, or I actually really love using these guys, which are really small, and I just find them useful. I can just throw them in a little tin and they're always with me. And yeah, that's pretty much all you're gonna need for today. Okay, I'm gonna show you how to thread a needle, in case you've never done that before. I'm going to choose quite a small needle because of the project I'm going to be doing. I'm also going to use a bright pink thread because it matches what I want to do. And I'm just going to lick the end of this because it makes it easier to thread. I know it's a bit gross. So I'll show you how to use this. You've got the eye of your needle, which is the hole in the top. You push that bit through, it'll bend, and you thread, if it'll let me, that through the needle threader hole. Keep hold of your needle, pull that, and it pulls your thread through without you having to strain your eyes. I'm gonna cut off a bit of cotton that's probably longer than I'll need, about a forearm's worth. I'm just gonna snip that, get rid of those, don't need those for a bit. Okay, and then I'm just gonna tie a knot in my thread, and that stops the thread coming out when you start to sew. And that is how you thread a needle. Okay, first project. This is a vintage blouse that I bought a while back, and it's great, it's oversized, so it looks really cool, but the sleeves are really long on me, and they actually look better if I fold them up. So to stop them constantly falling down, I'm gonna fold them up twice, which is the length that I found it suits me. And then just to secure them in like a really simple way, I'm gonna use my pink thread because it's got pink in it and I want it to stand out a little bit. And I'm gonna just put some little crosses here at the bottom when that folds in properly, maybe here and on the other side, just to secure it, but without having to sew all the way around using a machine. So you want a bit of a tail. You can see there that one side is longer than the other, but this just stops you losing your thread and it coming undone as you're sewing. What I would say is always start from the inside. Of course, this is so slippy, it's gonna fall off. So, okay, that is folded where I want. You're gonna start from the inside, but to catch all the bits of fabric. So you start in here, and it comes out the top. Pull gently until you feel the knot. That should stop it going all the way through. And I'm just gonna go over and push it down so it comes out there. I'm gonna do that a couple of times. Doesn't have to be perfect. You know, it doesn't have to start and stop at the exact same bit. It's quite hard to do, but you know, if you're doing this in a thread that matches, then you won't see it anyway. Oh, that's not where that goes. I would have thought that I did that. There you go. So I'm just gonna do that there. All right, and then to make a cross, I want them to be around the same length of stitch. So I did about 3 stitches there. Okay, like I said, I'm not fussy, so I'm not bothered about it being perfect. It's more about it being functional, and meaning that I'll actually wear this more often because the sleeves won't fall down and I won't feel frumpy in it. That's what this is all about. Okay, so I've done a few stitches. If I was doing this in a matching thread, I'd have done it in black. I don't care that it's not even, no one's gonna notice. And then just to finish it off, you hook a little bit of fabric, okay, and then get the tail and the long bit, hook it round underneath the front of your needle, and then pull that through, and that just creates a little knot to secure it. I'm just gonna do that again. Okay, and there we go. Snip it off. Done. So I'll do 3 more of those, and then that'll hold that one up, and then you just do it on the other side as well. Okay, so as you can see, there's the one that I did before. I've done one on each side. That one's blended in a bit because it's pink, and so is that one. Like the inside, these are the tails that are kind of looped in, and that's why you start from the inside, is so the messy bit is hidden and what you see is on the outside. The best bit about this is that if you go wrong, you can just pull it all out again, or you can just snip it off, pull the thread out and start again. Like you can just keep going. I would practice maybe on a bit that no one's going to see, like do your first one underneath. But this is just a really easy way of making something suit you, just like by rolling up the sleeves of a t-shirt or a shirt and securing it like this. Just stops it rolling down and keeps it at the length that suits you. Okay. This is the second project. This is more of a mending project. This is a black t-shirt dress I've had for a long time. It's one of my favourites. It has a slit up the front to make it easier for walking in. Now, the slit used to start here, but because of walking and wear and tear, it's ripped up to here. It's definitely fixable. I could leave it, but I'd rather it stopped tearing further up. I've threaded my needle just like before, but I've used a grey, like a silver coloured thread, just so that you can actually see what I'm doing, hopefully. I would actually use a black thread for this so that you can't see it. I don't want people to be able to see that it's been mended on that bit. Now, just like before, you want to start on the inside. So this is the outside. You can see because like it's all very neat. Whereas on the inside, there's edges, like the rough bits are all on the inside. So I'm just going to turn this inside out and get the right side, which is here. Let's turn that. Okay. So because of how it's torn, I am going to be I'm just using my favourite stitch, which is a ladder stitch. You can just sew through it. A whip stitch, which is doing this. A ladder stitch is kind of going like that. But I'll show you both, why not? So if you wanted to do a whip stitch, I start at the bit where it's okay. So that's here. Get the two edges together. I hope you can see this. The light's not brilliant because I'm not in my studio, I'm at home like everyone else. Okay, so I'm just gonna start on one side, push the needle through both bits of fabric to join them together, pull gently until the knot stops it, but you've got a little bit of tail, and then whip stitch. You just, the thread will come over and you start to the left of it, to the right of it, whichever way. That sometimes happens where your knot comes through because you've pulled it too tight. Again, you just start again, it's totally fine. Okay, and you just keep going. You can do the stitches as small as you like smaller the better usually. I always use my needle as well. If it does this, I use my needle to kind of guide the thread where I actually want it to go and then pull it by hand. Okay, and then you just kind of keep going. Like I said, you can do really small stitches. Because it's on the inside, doesn't have to be neat, doesn't have to be even. If you're a perfectionist, then practice, practice, practice. I'm impatient, so I don't always do the neatest hand sewing, especially if it's gonna blend in, you won't be able to see it, and it's just to mend something, like fine. But if I was doing this on a like an order or a finished product on the hem, I usually finish that by hand, then I always make sure it's as neat as possible, and I'll go over and do things a couple of times if I need to, if I'm not happy. And yeah, so it's a bit Frankenstein. It's a bit messy, but it's gonna do the job. And then I just go back on the last stitch, just go through again and make a knot. And like I said, this would normally have been in black thread, so you wouldn't even see this. There's only you that knows that this has been mended if you do it this way, and no one else needs to know. Snip that off. I always leave like a little bit of a tail just so it doesn't unknot itself. And from the front, let's see how that looks. So it's on the right side. Again, so you can see a few stitches. If that was in black, you wouldn't know. So that's not my favourite stitch, but it does the job. Okay, I'll quickly show you what I know as ladder stitch, but I'm sure I've also seen it called blanket stitch. This is the one I tend to use if I'm joining two sides. I just find it easier and feel like it has a nicer finish. So we'll put that to the test. Okay, it's a bit weird because this is further away than I would normally have it. So I'm going to turn it to the side just to make it easier for me to handle. And I'm going to basically thread my needle sort of, it's like you're putting it through the fabric sort of downwards, the direction that you're wanting to go. I've put a knot in, pull that through gently again, and then parallel to where that comes out, I'm going to do the same on the other side. And you're wanting it so that the actual needle and where the thread is going, where it's going to join up, you're not going to see it because it's going through the fabric, not across it. And then you pull that together. And then you just carry on doing that on the alternate side. I'm doing this a bit further in than the edge so that when it joins together, you won't be able to see it. And you won't be able to see the rough edges. So again, parallel to where I've just made that stitch. Again, you can do this as small as you like, because then it'll be stronger. And pull that together. I'm just gonna do the next few quicker so that you can see how quick you can go with this. It doesn't matter if it's still loose, because when you pull it at the end, it'll all come together, but I just like doing it as I go along, or like every couple of stitches. Now, sometimes your thread has a life of its own and it just wants to get in the way, so just be careful that you don't get all tangled up. Okay. I don't know if you've noticed as well, my hands look like I've been in a fight with a bramble bush. This is what happens when you have a 4-month-old kitten who likes to play fight. So I've not been fighting with anyone apart from a kitten who has claws and I don't. So yeah, just excuse that if you can. Thank you. All right, nearly there. So we're just gonna do, I'll just do one last one, which is pretty much the end of it. Anyway, I'm just gonna straighten that out so it doesn't bunch together too much. Okay, and then again, this is all on the wrong side of the dress. This is all on the inside. So I'm just gonna tie my knot, same as before, wrap that round the front and pull it, and that just secures it. It's not like totally secure, but it's enough for the job that we're doing. Okay, let's get rid of the needle, and then hopefully So you can see on this side, oh, ignore the top bit, that's just come undone because I didn't start from the top apparently. But yeah, you can see, like, you can hardly see the threads, it's just the bottom bit, but that's just because it's not pulled tight enough. Again, if I was doing this properly, it would be in black thread, you wouldn't see it. Like I said, it's a weird angle because my hands are farther apart than they need to be. Like, I usually work quite close up, just because it's all quite fine, it's dark fabric, so it's harder to see. But yeah, it just gives you an idea of one way that you can mend something if it's torn. That's 2 different stitches. Like, even on the inside and the outside, you can barely see it if you match your thread. Okay, this is the next project. I don't know how many of you will need this one. Depends how many of you have handmade jumpers at home. So this is one of my favourite jumpers. It was hand knitted by my mum. She's absolutely wonderful, and I've had it for so long that eventually I noticed that there was little air holes. This is in the sleeves. So it's weird, it must just be how I wear it, because it's happened in the same place. So yeah, so that's just probably how I wear it. I've decided to use, let me move that so you can see it. I'm using a much thicker needle, which means it has a bigger eye, just because this is quite chunky, and I've decided to use some wool to thread it with, so it just so it stays basically, because cotton's just gonna slip right through because this is so chunky. So this is just some grey wool I had lying around. You know, you can pick it up pretty cheap. It doesn't have to be 100% wool. You can get acrylic, and that's totally fine just for mending. Put a knot in it. I might do a double knot actually, just because, just to be on the safe side. And that'll do me. So again, I'm gonna do this from the inside out, because I don't want my messy sewing showing on the bit that I wear and spoiling my mum's hard work. Yeah, I love this jumper, I've worn it a lot. And okay, so I've got quite a long bit of wool just because I don't want to run out essentially. I'm just going to use a whip stitch on this, but it's just to show you the difference it can make with different thread. So I'm going to start a bit further down than where I actually need to. And I'm just gonna go around that again. The thicker your needle and your thread, like this isn't technically thread, you know what I mean, the harder it will be to pull it through. So you might have to be a little bit tougher. And yeah, I'm just gonna get it as close to the edges as possible. Because again, where these holes are, it's on the underneath bit of the arms. So like, when was the last time you looked at the underneath of anyone's sleeves? So again, it's about making it wearable again. You don't have to be up to some stupidly high standard. Like I said, I'm too impatient for hand sewing. I find it, it's too slow for me. But for mending, I don't mind it. Because you can get that done quite quick, and it means that you've got another piece of clothing back in your wardrobe. So yeah, so don't worry if it's a bit Frankenstein, if the seam's not perfect. You can see how I'm having to really pull through that, be a bit tough with it. I can do that with this because I know the fabric. Say if you had a really delicate dress or top or something that's made out of like silk, you would want to be really gentle. You would want to use a really fine needle and some really fine thread. You can actually get silk thread. I only found that out the other week. So I'm just gonna do these last few. Again, like it doesn't match perfectly, but I'm okay with that. Let's move that out of the way. The reason I keep pushing my thread out of the way is just so it doesn't all get tangled. It's just to make your life easier when you're doing this. And almost there. Okay, and I love the fact that this is like a chunky jumper, because it means if it's a bit messy, you can't tell. Wonderful stuff. It's also safe. You have something that's patterned. Oh, that's got a bit, there we go. If you've got something that's patterned, it's harder to see if you're not the neatest sewer. But yeah, it just depends on the piece of clothing that you're working on, really. Okay, you can see how this is closed up really well. And I'm just going to go a bit past the end. Sorry, I think I headbutted the camera there. Sorry about that. And I'm just going to go with this side because I think that might go at some point. So it's quite nice when you're doing something like this, you're kind of like, oh, that bit looks like it's about to go. So you can save yourself having to do another mending session if you kind of strengthen bits that are looking a bit weak while you're in the middle of fixing other bits. Okay, so I'm just going to tie a knot in that like normal. I've been quite lucky with this one. It's not really knotted up too bad. It's not got tangled. That can happen and it is incredibly annoying. It's just one of those things. I'm going to turn it around. You'll see it about to happen when it's about to knot. And it's, oh man, I hate it. It's the worst bit. So I'm trying to find it to show you. Where's the shoulder? So that's that. There you go. I don't know if you can see that, but where we've mended is that bit. So because this is a knitted jumper, because I used a similar colour, because it's almost patterned, and because I've used something that's really similar to what it's made of, it kind of blends in. Yeah, so I would just do that on the other side and that is good to go again. Okay, this is the last project. I'm going to show you how to sew on a button. So you can see this is the cuff of a shirt dress that I made as a practice, but I'd like to make it so I can wear it so it's not a waste. I've already sewn on one and I don't know if you can see, I had already marked out the dots of where the buttons need to be to match up to the button holes, but it's gone a bit faint. This is where your tailor's chalk comes in. This is just chalk with like some sharp edges and points, and you just use it to mark on where you need to sew things. It's used a lot in dressmaking, and it can just, rubs off, washes out. So you can make a mark, you can rub it out if it's wrong. And okay, again, I'm going to use this silvery grey thread and the fine needle again, just so that it shows up on this video, but I would normally do it in a green thread just to match the dress, although I suppose it would match the buttons, so that kind of works too. Okay, so these are just buttons that I bought at Fred Aldous, but you can get such a massive range of buttons from haberdashery stores and craft stores. They come in all sizes, all colours, all shapes, and it can really affect the look of the item of clothing. I chose these because I wanted them to stand out. I could have done dark green buttons. You could get them really big, really small. It's totally up to you, but it does change how your clothing looks. So if you know how to sew a button on, you can change the buttons on like your cardigans or a skirt or a top or a blouse or even a coat, and it'll completely change how it looks, and it'll just give it a whole new style. So that's a really easy way of changing something that you don't wear anymore and making it feel modern. Okay, so again, as always, start from the inside. You want to sort of bring your needle sort of from the inside, and you're bringing it out. You're aiming. Might take a few goes for where the little chalk notches, or mark, sorry, just using some jargon there, don't need to. I'm going to thread it, when I've pulled it all the way through, I'm going to thread it through one of the buttonholes, and let that land on the dress. You don't want to pull it too tight, but you want it to, you can move that around with your needle until it's where you want it to be. Don't forget about your chalk there. I want them to all line up. So there we go. I'm gonna put that through the other little eyelet for the button and just pull that through. You can do it rather than leaving it loose. You can put a matchstick underneath, and that gives you some give. So you know you're leaving your button loose enough, so it's not a struggle when you're fastening it. Sorry. It's towards the end of the day, can you tell? So I am just gonna keep on just going over and over the same stitches and just making sure that that button is really secure. You can do this with double thread if you want, because you're only doing small stitches. And it's just a bit quicker, but I'll do it the old school way. And okay, that should be fine. And then just again, I'm just gonna, hang on, getting those tangled, make my knot again. You can see that it's the same few basic skills that you can use for all sorts of different things. As soon as you know how to thread a needle and you know how to just do some very basic stitching, which is just pushing it through some fabric and then back through again and just going round and round. Once you know how to do that, you're sorted. Okay, I hope that gives you some ideas for little projects you can do to keep your wardrobe sustainable. Some mending projects, some upcycling projects. Maybe you could change some buttons on things that are looking a bit tired, you want to change it up a bit. If you have any questions, you can get in touch with me on Instagram or my website, which is So What Manchester. That's SEWWHAT MCR.com. And yeah, I'll be happy to answer any questions. And if you're wanting something a bit more advanced, just get in touch. All right, bye.